you know, we all worked through it. We all were able to kind of understand each other's differences and then really realize like the important part is like the mission, right? And the mission was like, we get across Texas.
This is the I Am Redemption podcast. Today we have a special episode. It's a pleasure to have these gentlemen join me on this Friday. First, I'd like to start off with our guest of honor, Mr. Kenneth Anderlitch. To his left, we have Roel Gonzalez, and right here we have my buddy Steve Carter. These guys, I've known Steve for a couple years now. Got to know him when I was deep in the running community. We went to an amazing camp called Band of Runners, and it's a camp that brings together veterans who introduces them in ultra running, gets them out on trail running. We had a very memorable weekend out there, and so he and I have been bonded since then. And then it was awesome to find out that he was connected with these gentlemen. My guest here decided that he was going to run the entire length of the state of Texas for recovery, and that is called Pay It Forward. Mm-hmm. Is that correct? And so, man, it was just awesome to find out that somebody else like myself was out in the running community. They were sharing and telling everybody kind of about their recovery and showing other addicts, you know, what's possible for us all. Big inspiration. And so he's got a movie coming out about him. It's called Road to Recovery. When is that coming out?
I'm guessing within a week or so.
Is it?
Yeah, that should be broadcasted on YouTube, so I'm not exactly sure whose channel just yet.
Okay.
We're still trying to decide on which one.
But by the time this episode comes out, we'll make sure we include a link and get as many eyes on it as we can.
Got it.
So, dude, I have so many questions for you. Where did this all start for you? Like the addiction, the running. Where did this all start for you?
So my addiction. Former heroin addict. I've been sober now since 2015, but it didn't really all start there. You know, as anybody who probably finds out they're an addict or an alcoholic, it all led up from, you know, maybe possibly from adolescence, most of us at least. You know, starting off as a children. You know, a couple beers here, a couple puffs of smoke there. Just in middle school, it started off pretty normal at first because everybody else was partying. You might as well party along with them. I actually did track in middle school, you know, and I wasn't too bad at it. I realized that, you know, with track, did the mile run. My mile was 4:49, and when I was in 7th grade.
Let's go.
And then, you know, the only reason why I got myself into track is because I wanted to be accepted. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I was in a school, very prestigious school. I don't know if anybody knows about Alamo Heights, but when you go to school like that, you want to be, you know, the only way you can either get accepted is either you have money or if you're, you know, top-notch athlete or something. So it's like, thought maybe I can do that and get accepted because I was a kid that was always playing with his Pokemon cards, and nobody wanted to mess with him like that.
Right.
So of course, going into later down, realizing that, you know, you even you get the times of what you wanted for running track and whatnot, you still felt like an outcast. And so I found out what skateboarding was, and skateboarding was one of my, felt like something that I easily identify as, because the easiest thing to be accepted was just to pick up a skateboard and even pick up a 6-pack of beer, and you're just in.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
So being accepted that way, I quickly realized that, you know, just drinking gave me a voice. Mm-hmm. It made me feel accepted. It made me feel like I was like in, and it made me feel good. And that was one thing, is I didn't always feel good about myself when I was a kid, and so drinking definitely was something that helped me realize, like, you know, this is great. I want to continue this feeling. So going into high school, it was very easy for me to drink on a daily basis. Right before school would start, just get a bottle of McCormick's, drink in the ditch with a couple of my homies, and it was just a normal. It was normal to pass out in English in the first period. It was normal for me to skip school. It was just normal for me to just really not apply myself anymore. And I think that was the whole image too, that the misperception of what I thought skateboarding was just don't apply yourself to something so structured, right? Have that unorthodox life. Be free and be who you want to be, and don't let this society show you who you are, even if it's an educational system. And so, of course, I dropped out. And I dropped out and started working, a 9-to-5 real quick, and the way that I supported my habit of drinking and any other drug that I can get my hands on was working, because I didn't come from a rich family. I didn't come from a family with money. So the only way I knew how to do things was just to work my ass off to do it. Long story short, I started realizing at the age of 18, 19, a lot of my friends were starting to go to college. They started getting family. They started doing things with their lives. And me, I was just supporting my habit in that sense of and the harder drugs too, it came along with it.
Dude, it was the exact same for me. I can remember being in all types of trouble. All I was doing was fueling my addiction the entire time. And I remember you get on Facebook or something, this kid I went to high school with is a lawyer, this kid's a doctor, this kid did this kid did that, this guy's married, this kid has kids, and here I am, just this hopeless drug addict sitting in jail, in and out, and stuff like that. And it was like, Jesus.
And you're not even in your 20s yet.
Right.
And the thing is, I quickly realized, my mom too also had a problem. I was a big mama's boy. Growing up, and so seeing my mom, I never said no to her, and she never said no to me, and so it was just two people enabling each other.
Right.
And so coming home and just coming home from house parties and dropping a lot of acid and taking a bunch of exos and doing a bunch of God knows what, and just just coming in all messed up, and then realizing that when I got home, my mom was even more messed up than I was, because she was prescribed medications all the time. So she was addicted to anything that they could prescribe her, and she justified that justification.
Because it comes from a doctor.
Right.
It can't be bad.
Yeah. And that's the unfortunate part, right? Is that a lot of us who are prescribed these things have to, we're enabled to these medications, and it's like, the doctor wouldn't give me this if it was dangerous, right? And so you get lost in the sauce with that. The time that I came back, I was working as a mover at the age of 20, came back home one time, left for work, and I worked long hours as a mover. I don't know if anybody ever done moving jobs, but I would go to Houston and come back, and I'd come back that night. When I left for work, my mom was sitting, and if you're in a Hispanic home, your mom has that one spot that you sit at. She sits at. Nobody messes with that spot, right? So
Nobody.
So she sat there, and she had a bowl of cereal. It was a big bowl of cereal. And if you've ever, taken Xanax or any sort of barbiturates, you take all sorts of, you eat anything and everything in front of you, and that's what she did, right? And so she had a big bowl of cereal. And I left, and that was the normal way of what I saw. That's what I would see, is my mom sitting watching TV. And so I come back later that night, and she's passed out with the same bowl of cereal in her lap. Saturated, everything, just, that's also something normal I'd see. I guess she didn't I guess she loaded another bowl of cereal, who knows? Well, come to find out, something happened between the time that I was gone and I came back, where she passed out, she took too many meds, and she lost oxygen to the brain, right? And I guess that was the same bowl of cereal I saw coming back. And so the caretaker came that following morning, and of course my mom's still in that same position. And like I said, most people in a normal household would have already done and called the ambulance, EMS, something would have been, but red flags. But this was something normal for me.
This is just another day.
So the caretaker said, we need to call the EMS. I was like, no, she's fine. This is the way she always is. And, a couple days later, after we'd taken her to the hospital, she lost oxygen to the brain. That the doctor said that she was never going to wake up the same person, that we had a choice of whether we want to take care of her like this, and she'll never, ever probably come to, and she'll always be in a coma the way that she is, or we pull the plug. And that's the reality, right? That was something. And right after that, after losing my mom, we made the decision to pull the plug. And after that, you know, I kind of went way off on the deep end and found a beautiful drug called heroin, which just continued to be in my life for the next several years. And, you know, of course, you know, losing my mom, you would think most people would probably be like, you know what, maybe I should grow up. Maybe I should snap out of it, whatever. I took it as like, well, I mean, like, she didn't know how to handle her stuff, but I do. I remember when she passed away, I did like kind of had that moment of like, I really not sure what to do with my life, because my life was to serve her. My life was to please her. And at that point, I was just like, maybe I should just not live. I worked at a strip club, and I wasn't a stripper, but I worked at a strip club doing passing out cigarettes and cologne, and I was working out the restroom. I was the bathroom guy, and I was Cowboys dance hall. I would be the bathroom guy in there, and I just remember like that's how I paid for my addiction. The house, we weren't sure exactly what was going to go on the house. My brother was ready to move on with his life, and I didn't know what to do with mine. I went to Fort Sam. I went to a recruiting place, and I thought, you know what? I don't want to be a heroin addict. I want the Army. I want the government to take care of me. I'm going to go join the Army. So I went to do the recruiting over there off of San Pedro, Parambital and Thousand Oaks. And they got me. It took them like not even like 2 hours, and they already had me at Fort Sam, taking the ASVAB. I was like, don't you want me to study for this? Like, and at the time, I quit heroin for two days, so I was already withdrawing, and I find myself at Fort Sam sweating, just like in deep, like just withdrawing from that, taking an ASVAB with questions telling me your gear A turns this way, gear B turns this way, gear C turns this way. Does it turn faster than gear A? And I'm just like, whatever. I start clicking buttons, and I don't know how, but I barely passed with like a, I don't know.
You passed?
Like a 50 or 60 or something like that. I remember like they said, okay, well
dude, passing the ASVAB in the middle of kicking dope that's nothing to turn my. I would have never showed up.
I felt like at that point I would have done anything but to be in that house.
Right.
And so I think at that time, I've always found like I could never do it by myself. Like I can never get sober by myself. I need some sort of higher power. I need something. And that leads me into this. He brings me back and he says, look, can you pass a drug test? I was like, yeah, I'm smoking weed. You know, I didn't want to the heroin. I was like, yeah, I smoke some weed, and so I probably won't be able to. He's like, okay, come back in a week. I shit you not. I tried to like stop. I tried to kick it. And within that week, didn't work out. I end up scrounging around for some change in my couch, and I was like, my go-to thing was like, I'm gonna go to the store because I had no money to my name. I'm gonna go to the store. I'm gonna go buy a cigar, and I'm just not gonna worry about getting dope. I go to the store and get some change, or try to buy a cigar. And
you're kicking with nothing? No Suboxone, no methadone.
No, that's always I've tried methadone, and I ended up having a break for like a full month. Later down that time when I attempted to do it, Suboxone just tastes so gross. Every time I try it, I just puke. So I go to the store, try to get some cigars. I'm heading back, and just this is how crazy this disease is. It's like, you know that you're going to the military. You know your life would probably get better, maybe, but better than where it is.
Right, for sure.
And you're going there, and all you have to do is just not do dope for a couple days. And the fact is I'm heading back to my house, and I'm smoking this cigar, and I'm like, you know what? And it's in the middle of the day in my own neighborhood, and my neighbor's garage door was open, and I see some weed whackers and leaf blowers, and I take it in the middle of the day, and my other neighbor sees me do it, and they're like, drop that. And I don't know if it was self-sabotage. I don't know what it was. But in my head, I was thinking, at that time, I need dope. And that's how quick it is. That's like, I have no defense towards the first drink or use. That's when I want to quit, but I don't have the necessary devices to help me stay off of it.
For sure.
And so I end up getting caught. because it's my neighbors, they're like, dude, try to steal from us.
Right.
And so long story short, you know, that's my first major encounter. I've had other encounters with the law, but that was my first major encounter where it turned into a burglary of a habitation, and then I ended up going to jail. I mess up on probation, cannot do probation. Go to TDC, end up doing 3 years, TDC number 1574433, and of course I do my first 3 years there, get out, and it's amazing how you spend that much time. It's not that much time, but you spend that time away from everything, and again, you have no defense towards the first drink. Right? You have that stint of sobriety for 3 years. You read self-help books, you do push-ups, you write letters, and those same and the same thought pattern and the same behaviors that you carry along with you when you went in there, and you do nothing about it, or at least you don't have the proper devices to help you change it. You leave with those same things. Right. And so it's like I get out, and it's like and some things just never change, you know. I first started off with a couple beers, and then it becomes.
I remember what you were saying at the beginning, and that was very much my story. Is about like wanting to belong, you know, I was a basketball player in high school, and I got in a car accident. Basketball was pretty much over with for me, and so it led me into the party crowd. And I can remember when I got out of prison, I think I made it maybe a week, just about a week. But I felt like I was like the loneliest person in the world. I felt like everybody knew I had been to prison and would judge me. And the easiest, most comfortable thing to do was to go back around those same people that I was hanging out with before. And so like, I know exactly what you're saying. It's like, you know, I did 2 years. How could I sit there every day, 24 hours a day, thinking about how bad I fucked this all up, all the people I hurt, my own mother won't even talk to me and all this. And then a week out and I'm like, oh yeah, let's just get high again. That'll fix everything. So. Yeah. I get exactly what you're saying.
I mean, like, I guarantee you could put both of us on a lie detector test at that time before we left, right? And we would pass with flying colors because we were totally convinced that before you leave, I'm not coming back. Yeah. I'm going to change my life, and you know what? My life is going to instantly improve when y'all let me out of here. And you can buy into it, and you're selling yourself that idea. But the fact is that like the crappy part is that you spent that time probably just to set yourself up for failure to come back yet again, and you don't even know it, right? Because you're too busy in this fog of, I'm going to succeed, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. These self-help books are going to set me up to do whatever, or you know, whatever. So long story short, between the time that I got out from prison to the last time I went to prison, right? Because I've spent 5.5 years altogether in my 20s, either homeless, living out of motel rooms, living out of my car, you know, just, but during that time, it was like, the girlfriends that I had, I thought I loved. I don't think I've ever really loved anybody because I didn't love myself, right? So I can't say that but, you know, and they're all, I mean, let's face it, I dated mostly girls that would sell their bodies. And so in that dynamic, we never were good for each other in the first place because it's like I enabled you to put yourself at harm's way. I sold you the idea that so how that even transpired was like, hey, I'm going to be your ride. You go do your thing. And then if anything goes down, I'll be here. Right. And I'm telling myself in the car, if anything went down, what would I really be doing? Like, would I really protect somebody? Like, you know, and so it's like, I'm dope sick right now. I'm waiting for you to finish this job.
I'm trying not to shit myself. Fucking, you're on your own.
Yeah. But, you know, those, and the friends that I kept myself around, I would say, you know what, I got you. And we would be just a band of thieves. And really, there was no trust between us, but we would tell each other, I trust you, you're my brother, you know, I love you and everything like that. But give me the chance, and I'll help you find your wallet. I'm helping you find your wallet while I have your wallet really in my pocket. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it's like, that was the environment, and if I really took a step back, which I did quite a lot, even when I was using, when I really took a step back, I knew even at those times when I was there that this whole life that I have myself surrounded, that I felt like I was needing to be in when I was locked up, I missed my friends. I missed my girlfriends, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, when I was gone, life kept going.
And dude, I didn't get a letter. I didn't get a dime on my books. Nothing from all these good friends.
The people that would write you, you would shoo off after you got out, right?
Yeah.
And the people that didn't write you, you go straight back to.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, that's the, and you know, today, now that I'm sober, I look at that and it helps me develop what I want, what I need in my life as far as relations, right? Because the thing is, it's not about like, it's not about so much as like what people can do for me, but more or less, and yes, there is a sense of self-care, but how I can better serve and be better for other people around me. But back to the story, I got sober, or the last time I got messed up because I went to Austin and tried to. I did everything I possibly could. I tried to do a geographical change, even though Austin's only an hour away. I tried to get away out of San Antonio. I went to Austin. The minute I went to Austin, I ended up going through Travis County State Jail as well because I messed up over there. I ended up taking a bunch of pills and doing a lot of meth, and I went on a whole rampage. And end up stealing a bunch of stuff over out of the UT campus, and then I tried to sell it to an undercover cop, and that undercover cop ended up, it became a whole story on that. And at the end of the night, I ended up walking with a 6-foot ladder down some street, and it was reported that I broke inside somebody's closet. It's like a downstairs, it was like a storage unit. I stole a 6-foot ladder. And so here I am walking down one of the busiest downtown streets of Austin with a ladder. And of course the cop pulls up and says, hey, there's reports that somebody has been taking stuff out of people's storage closet. And here I am with a ladder, and I'm pretty sure not looking like somebody who should be carrying around a ladder. Yeah. And I said, oh, that's crazy. And he's like, yeah, you fit the description. And I was like, oh, man. Well, you know, my dad and I are supposed to be painting houses. I'm supposed to bring this ladder. And he, I guess, played along with it. He was like, okay, cool. Let's call your dad right now.
You got you.
And so he pulled his phone out and he said, do you know your dad's number? I was like, yeah. So I'm hoping that my dad was going to catch on saying like, hey, like, you know, yeah, we're going to paint houses. No, man, they called and he was like, hello. And they're like, yes, Mr. Anderlitch, is your son going to, you and your son going to go paint houses? Like, hell no, man. And he hung up. He's like, all right, Mr. Yeah, we're taking you in. So, you know, a lot of times I went to prison. A lot of times I went to jail. It wasn't because I was some hard up, you know, criminal or anything like that. I made so many attempts on just trying to make $1 to feed my addiction. Yep. That's it. Yeah. You know.
Dude, I remember walking in there and looking around, and I'm like, man, like I'm not like any of these people, you know what I mean? Like I haven't raped nobody, I haven't murdered anybody, I haven't hurt anybody. Like not that I didn't hurt people, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I just got this problem, you know what I mean, that I don't know what to do, so.
And I think that's the thing, you know, is coming into an environment like that, you know, everybody had all these like war stories of crime and stuff like that. And if I really tell them like, oh yeah, I stole some stuff and returned it for a gift card.
Right. like, I stole a weed whacker out of my neighbor's garage.
Like I didn't have like gunpoint kind of like, you know, like yeah I robbed all these people or did, you know, like no man, I'm scared of guns. Right. You know, like and I honestly felt, because you know I'm gonna break my own anonymity that I am part of the 12 step, but I honestly felt like step 1 hit me way before I even got sober. You know, where you admit that you're powerless over drugs and alcohol and your life becomes unmanageable. Yep. Right? And so step 1 came when I was sitting in the motel room and I'm looking at my girlfriend put her makeup on and then like kind of like knowing like this could be it for me. This like she's getting ready for a date. She's getting ready to get with somebody and the dope's out and my dope man is across the bed from me, kind of like, you know, yelling at one of his whatever. Yeah. And so it's like I'm looking at this circus of like people that I have, right? And I'm the main clown, right? And so I'm like, this is it. Like this is I'm powerless over this. This is what my life is going to be like. I've admitted this. Like I've admitted that like what's on that counter, what's on that table is my higher power now. And I hate to say it, but I hated everybody in that room. Like I hated everybody in that room. And the fact that they all were essential players to get me that right there was the crappy part.
Yeah.
You know, I needed that dope man to serve me. I needed that girl to sleep with another person or do what she had to do so we can get the money for it. I hated the person who would do the runs, and I hated myself. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I admit, like that this is it. If I don't do anything about it, if I don't find a way to get out of this, this is my life.
Right.
And so, and I wanted to like. They're like those aha moments. Like obviously, you're not going to cry in the middle of a motel room with everybody there.
Yeah.
But I wanted to so bad because like that, I knew that was where my life was going to be. I knew that my friends were succeeding out there outside those walls. I knew that my family was missing me outside of there. I knew that like I've missed almost every holiday function because I was so wound up on just that.
Yep.
And so When I finally got out of the last time I got out of prison, or when I finally got out, you know, I had one last stretch, and then things really just broke apart. But they broke apart not so. And the only time I got sober was with a prison number. So this time around, when I finally got sober, a lady found me. She found me walking the streets. I lost my car. I lost, you know, I OD'd. I've OD'd 10 times, but this last time that I OD'd in the jail. And I guess they didn't want to process me. They just took me straight to Nick's hospital when Nick's was still open. They took me straight to Nick's hospital. And I remember coming to, and I had a catheter up me, and I was handcuffed, and I was like, it was a rude awakening when you have a catheter coming up in you, and you're breaking off of something. And so I remember waking up to that, and the cop was like, calm down, calm down. So they discharged me instead of taking me into jail. And so I had to like really ask myself, like, is this what I want to continue doing? Well, this lady found me walking with no shoelaces because they take your shoelaces away, I guess. And she said, you know, what are you doing? She asked me if I wanted to help her move some furniture, and I said yes, and I helped her. And then, of course, at the end of it, she said, you know, I can give you this money for help me move this furniture. But she knew that I was also detoxing. Mm-hmm. And so she was like, or you can come with me over to Atascosa to my ranch, and what we can do is like work out this like agreement that you don't steal any of my tools, that you stay within my sight, that you sleep in the back of a shack of a cot, and I don't give you this money because I feel like you're going to use it for whatever. And I feed you every day, but you help me out. And for some reason, I felt like not getting that money, but doing that, what she's asking me, even though I'm just quitting cold turkey and I'm just withdrawing again, I felt like that was the pivotal moment where I could possibly not go back to, you know, what I was doing.
Right.
So I said, sure, why not? And at that point, she then became somewhat of my higher power, because whatever she told me to do, I did. Like at that point, she said, I don't want you. She did a lot of weird stuff too. And I was just there along, and I was just kind of like, all right, cool. And we would feed her sickly animals, and we would, you know, do this and we would do that, because she took care of like animals that were close to death. And she had ponies, she had mini ponies, she had miniature, I don't know. And like all these different animals. And I remember she would have me, you know, do this labor stuff while I was like detoxing. And no matter what, like no matter how stupid I thought it was, I would do it. And then at the end of it, you know, after the end of those couple weeks, she said, you know, you look like you're eating now. You look like you feel good. And I was like, I do feel good. Like I feel great. Like I feel like, but I also knew in the back of my mind, if you let me back on the streets, I'm gonna go use you.
Right.
Like I knew it. Those 2 weeks, like I'm done. Like but I knew in the back of my mind. So she said, for the first time ever that I ever somebody actually had like a conducive way of helping me was like, do you want me to help you find a rehab? And so,
wow,
I never, nobody's ever offered me that. Not in a time of like getting out of prison, not in a time of getting out of county. Nobody said like, do you want to go to rehab? None of my family members knew exactly how to find a rehab. I was like, a rehab, like I guess like, I thought that was for rich people, you know, and so.
It is.
Yeah. So so her and I worked together and found a place over at Haven, and you know, is for people who, you know, are homeless and, you know, but not just homeless, but just, you know, needing that help. And so went through them, and then realized that when people go through rehab, like, the only way you leave out of there is you leave worse than you are or better than you are,
yep.
right? And so I didn't want to continue being worse than what I am. So I left out of there knowing that the people who are working their steps got a sponsor, that sort of thing. And it seemed easy enough, you know, people get a sponsor, write some stuff down, admit that you're powerless, which I've already admitted to. Find a God of your own understanding, which I had no problem with, you know, because I already realized, like, I can practically pinpoint anybody and be like, yep, that's my God, that's my higher power right there, yep. Because it was either girlfriends, friends, dope man, whatever. Those were my employers. Those were my higher powers. So at that time, you know, I just made my sponsor my higher power. Then I made the rehab my higher power. And then I started, like, realizing, like, I can make anything my higher power. And the only reason why I said my sponsor my higher power is because, like, I had to follow through with what he said, right? Do this, okay. Do that, okay, cool. And then rehab was like, if you bring any drugs in, if you bring a cell phone in, you're out of here. Like,
right.
I definitely don't want to do that.
So at this time, like, while you're in treatment, had you started had you started thinking at that point about getting back into running, or at what point did the running start coming back into?
So it's funny. I think the first 2 years I was smoking like a pack a day.
Right.
So the first 2 years of my sobriety after I got out, I was smoking a pack a day. I ended up getting a girlfriend. That's probably why. And so that girlfriend, we were no good for each other, but we tried to make a triangle fit into a square. And so we tried to make it work, and we were just terrible for each other. I'm simply just terrible to be in a relationship at that point. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't know how to give. I didn't know how to love. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff, right? But at that time, you think because you're sober, you instantly improve, right?
Yeah.
Everything about you is glorified. You're this Buddhist monk. Nothing bothers you. Nothing is, like, you know, whatever. At least that's what I thought about me. And so when we got together, it was like as if, like, you know, it was as if, like, I was with the same girl from before, except she wasn't selling her body. I was just, I'm sober, and I'm dealing with somebody who's just as crazy as I am, you know. And so
did she get you into running?
No. This guy got me into running. I started working at Haven 2 years later into my sobriety, and I broke up with my girlfriend, right? And that was the hardest thing I could do because I have a hard time with boundaries. Yeah. I have a hard time, like, holding boundaries, mm-hmm. And so I still do to this day, almost 8 years later, and I'm still, like, have a hard time with boundaries.
Right.
But I told her, like, this will not work. Like, we have to just stop. And at that time, too, I broke up with cigarettes, too. And so it's tough to break up with somebody and then also not smoke.
Yeah.
And so I remember showing up to work, and I was, like, not only heartbroken, but I was like, man, I can't even smoke a cigarette right now. And I see him looking up, I see Roel, because he was working at Haven at the time. He's looking up a route, and then I was like, what are you doing? And he says, I'm looking up this route. I got this race, and so I got to train. I go, okay, how long is it? He's like, it's about 6 miles. I was like, I could do that. And so I didn't even have the proper shoes for it. And so...
This was during a lunch break.
Oh, really?
When he usually napped.
Yeah, so he's calling me, he's telling me at, what? I would say, you had that route and you showed up around 6:30 that morning?
Yeah. It was only supposed to be, 6 miles?
Yeah.
Just the 3 out and 3 back?
Right.
And he was like, well, I could do it, but I'm not going to do it no 8-minute pace or whatever. I think we ended up doing it at like 7:30-minute pace.
Were you saying you weren't going to be able to be that fast, or that you were going to go way faster?
I thought that I was going to get dropped because I had, like, smoker's lung still.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, it was like 6 miles with anybody who first gets
first
in.
Run,
it's
for
like
sure.
You're happy if you ran around the block, right?
Yeah,
and so,
for sure.
So I went with him, And, you know, when you get through a breakup, most of us are pretty crazy, right? We're looking at our exes, like, social media. We're looking at seeing if they're what they're up to. At least that's what I am, because I'm crazy. And I was like, man, dude. And the whole time when we ran, I wasn't looking at that. I wasn't thinking about her. I was just hoping I wasn't getting dropped. And so I wanted that more. I wanted that that thinking of getting away from, like, all the troubles that I had, the troubles of work, the troubles of not smoking, the troubles of, you know, breaking up. And so that's what running did for me. And that's what running still does for me. Yeah. You know, it's a tool for me. It's not a lifestyle. It's meditation. It would be like yoga. It's something that I can use when life is kind of like beating my ass, right? Yeah. And some of us are just wired that way. And that's really just a blessing, I think. And the thing is, like, I've never looked at running as a way where I will get, you know, sponsorships or you know, I need to get noticed or anything like that. It was just something that, like, helped me kind of, and it still is. It's something that continues to just help me get away from what's going on. Yeah. But then I also know and recognize it's a tool. So as a tool, you pick it up, you use it, and you put it back down again, right? And so you have to get back to what the normal functions of life is, which is, you know, manning up or facing whatever problems that you have, but at least you face it, showing like, well, at least I took care of one little thing, which is I ran down the block and back, you know? So that was... And that has been, like, something that has helped my recovery in the sense of, like, my own well-being, right? I'm not always big on, like, you know, group runs and stuff like that, but lately with the group runs that have been coming up lately, it's definitely helped me kind of explore more and be more social with this. Because now I'm starting to realize, like, there are other people who are not in sobriety, who are also dealing with it, and who use running as a source of recovery. Maybe not from drugs and alcohol, but definitely from life as a whole, right?
Dude, so I say that all the time. Like, everybody's recovering from something. You know what I mean, we all got shit. Mine just happened to be drugs and alcohol. Yours happened to be that. It's not like that for everybody, but everybody's had some shit go through them, and hopefully they find that outlet like we found running. And I 100% agree. I've never been a good person, like meditation, as to, like, sit there and be still and not think. Can I do it? Probably. Don't want to do it. But running, dude, that was my meditation. That's where I'd work out all my problems. If I was too pissed off at something, you know what I mean, trying to work through that all pissed off, I go through a run and I'm thinking way clearer. You know what I mean? I can arrive at a sound decision rather than just acting off emotions and stuff like that. You guys all run. I know you guys get it. Yeah. Steve, I wanted to hear from you real quick. How did this gentleman come into your life?
I was stationed in Korea in 2016, and Ken had gotten involved with some group runs in the San Antonio area, and I was still following it because my return from Korea was back to San Antonio. And I just kind of saw it.
Just to be clear, Air Force vet?
Air Force vet.
And Army vet.
Army vet.
All right, go ahead.
And so I saw kind of what Ken was doing and the things that he was doing involved with the community, and I heard a little bit about his story in sobriety. And, you know, man, I got over to Korea and I went 100 days without drinking, and something happened and I drank again. You know, at that point I could have stayed sober for the rest of my life, but something triggered, and I wound up drinking again in Korea, and then the floodgates opened, right? And it was bad until the end of my Air Force career when I finally got a grip on it when I retired. But yeah, alcohol had a strong hold on me for all of my military career. But I knew a little bit of Ken's story, and I just admired him. You know, I knew he was out there doing good things and being a positive influence to others, and I just always admired him. And I was like, how can I find myself and get involved at that same time, right? When I retired from the military, I thought I was going to just be involved with just veterans. I was like, I'm gonna go, you know, you think Wounded Warrior Project, or you think, like, you know, all of the veteran service organizations that help out veterans when they get out. And once I got sober, it morphed into more of, like, just friends and being a good example and giving to others, giving to friends. Band of Runners Camp help with that. Yeah. Right? Because they kind of tell you about, crewing for people and pacing people and what that involves in our community. Right. So it just kind of morphed into that, and Ken was a big conduit for all of that.
So you came back from Korea and started going to the run group, and that's how you guys...
Pretty much, yes. Long, kind of convoluted
and then
explanation there.
How did you feel? You're doing your own thing. You're obviously to an advanced stage that you're running at that time when you had first.
I thought.
Right, but you were strong in it. It was something. If you were mapping out routes and training for races and stuff like that, you were all in.
I didn't even know it until processing it the last year or two after the stuff that we've been through. But it was my medicine too. Running it just got me away, but didn't. At first, the way it started with him, where it just got you away. Right. It was the easiest access to anything outdoors for me, and that's what I wanted to do, and where I wanted to be was outdoors. So running was just the quickest avenue of approach. So I thought, why not? Now I'm thinking, I don't even like running. It's just the quickest way to get outside. Right. But it was that outdoor therapy, and running was just the quickest way to relate to it. But I think I had jokingly said when we were being introduced to the rest of the Haven for Hope was like, oh, yeah, maybe I want to do something crazier, like run across Texas. And maybe I might be making this up, but I think Ken was behind me, still hadn't been running yet. And he chuckled like, who's that run across Texas? Yeah. Like, what? Yeah. And 5 years later, he ran across Texas.
It's fucking wild.
But yeah, me and Steve, we kind of got in the mix as we were doing our own thing, and it was just like a beautiful oil painting. It just coagulated pretty good.
Right. Yeah. That's beautiful because it sounds like y'all kind of needed each other. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like you guys came into each other's lives for a reason. And dude, of all the things I've did, like I didn't realize how much I needed that. I needed my people. I needed like that camaraderie with the boys and all that stuff. I didn't realize how bad I needed it when I got out. I didn't think I needed that anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
And then that's what I got into running, and then the trail running community in particular. It was like, oh, these are my people. Like where have y'all been? And just, you guys know the culture difference between road running and trail running. It was just like trail running, man. This is my people. They don't give a fuck I have tats. They don't care I'm a felon. All they care is, am I going to go run this 100K with them this weekend, and whatever weather we're doing it in and stuff like that. And so, dude, the best therapy I've ever received. It worked way better than the 15 bottles of pills they tried to give me for mental health reasons and stuff like that. So you had 5 years before you had heard him start talking about, or you had mentioned about running across the state of Texas. At what point do you start letting that seep into your head where you're like, this is something I want to do?
I think it was like a kid following his big brother around. It was like one of those things where he was like, I'm going to go support our buddy Kenny do a 100K. And seeing that, the first trail race, it was at Brazos. And if you know about Brazos, it's flat, it's just loops, but like the environment of it is just like, you see family around, you see support, and it just like, as somebody who's a first timer to running, you see that and you're like, man, I want to be a part of that. And then you get to pace with the guy who's doing it, and you see the pain and kind of like the struggle. And I guess it's like, like you want to see what that feels like, right? You want to
test yourself.
You want to be a part of that. Yep. So it was as if like it was like dope getting introduced to me in a sense again, but in a good way, right? Like way. Yeah, I honestly, it was like as if being started off to a simple, him and I running. We ran. I think we ran once or twice before he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be running on my side of town. You know now what to do. Go put some shoes on and go get up early in the morning and go do your run before work, right?" So. Right. I would do my little solo 10 miles, right, or whatever, and challenge myself. Okay, I'm going to go this far. I'm going to do this far. And I'm going to go this far. And it's like when you start picking up running and start running in your own city, you start finding like that, like instead of driving, you start realizing like, man, I live in a beautiful
Hidden
place.
gems,
Yeah, like,
hidden gems, yeah.
you know, and so that was like kind of like what kept me going was kind of like, okay, I've never ran to this point, so I would run over there. I was like the Forrest Gump of like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna run this far, and within like the first month or so, I was challenging myself to do a 50K of running. Like I picked up to a point where I was like, okay, I think I can do a 50K, and I made 2 attempts of doing a 50K, and I was trying to do it before my 30th birthday, right? Oh, 50, 30 miles, whatever. And I failed. But a month later, after recovering from attempting, I did a 50K down the worst, the Mission Trails. I remember going to the Mission Trails out and doing 15 miles out and 15 miles back. I remember bringing like nuts and berries with me as nutrition, just filling up my water bottles off of whatever I can find, water fountains. I remember doing it sometime a little after, closer to spring, end of February. And from there, it was like getting a taste of like, okay, like how, like just putting the music in or the headphones in and just zoning out.
Are you a headphones guy?
Only on long, boring runs like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I normally don't run with headphones just because, and I've learned like, you know, to continue like keeping track of your breathing and pacing, cadence, all that stuff, and just being more aware of your surroundings. I just would appreciate more of like without the headphones.
Yeah.
But when it came to like Trans-Texas, Cap to Coast, running to Austin, I kind of would put in these are really busy roads, but like for me, like doing longer runs, I just don't want to like not be focused, and I guess the music helps me stay focused on like what is in front of me.
Are you guys headphones guys?
I'm kind of the same, in and off. It depends.
Yeah.
No.
I've never used them.
I don't. I mean, I did when I first started running, but yeah, not anymore.
I'm thankful because I'm sure you guys have seen people on the trail and they're so used to headphones and their headphones go dead and they're just fucking lost.
They're lost.
Yeah, like what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
That or you're trying to pass somebody with headphones
And you
on.
scare them.
Like, on your left, and they're just like coming more over to the left. Like, come on, get out of my way.
Yeah, no, I think luckily nobody else was running Trans-Texas with me, so they didn't have to say on your left.
Right.
But I know for me, when I'm doing these long runs, you get a lot of people honking or, you know, not appreciating that what you're doing, or you're in their way, or whatever it is. So the headphones kind of help block out the white noise that I feel like is just like people kind of being like, hey, what's up, runner, Forrest Gump, whatever it is. So it's like, you know, that kind of helps me. But as far as like being in the trails, I don't wear headphones. I feel like, or just doing, you know, my track workouts or doing any sort of runs on the road, more or less. Like if I listen to music, I'm by myself. And it's off my phone, but it's not on the headphones. It's just like off my phone. I just listen, whatever.
You guys I told you guys downstairs there, I think it was before you got here, but they were talking about races and stuff like that. And I was like, you guys are making me want to get back into running. And as soon as you just said track workouts, I was like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need it. No.
Yeah, we have Wednesday.
You can
Wednesday,
still run and not do track workouts.
You can. That's what I do.
I know, so I do.
But I mean, we're not obviously as accomplished as him. Though.
Right.
Maybe you should do track.
I would do hill work instead of track.
Okay.
Like I would sprint hills and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Oh, yeah.
I always like doing hills more. And that's where I would always make up the most time in my races, is because most people slow down and power hike it, and I would still maintain the run. I'm not sprinting the hill, but I'm still keeping a run going. You know what I mean? And I'm like use gravity on the way down and all that.
Yeah, I feel like these guys are a little biased.
They are
towards the track workouts.
You can get speed workout. I do dog kwando, and that's my speed. That's my speed workout. I'm
dog
just
kwando.
Back and forth with my dog.
Chasing the dog?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's like Rocky chasing the chicken.
Yeah.
Pre Trans-Texas, I wasn't as connected with Ken as Roel is, right? And so I started going to track workouts with him, and I started going to hill workouts with him, and doing everything he was doing except at a lot slower pace, right? And I'm like, oh, I showed up, hey Ken, good morning, how you doing? And then off he went, right? Like as soon as the watch started, I was like, I can't keep up with these guys.
Right.
So they were gone, but I did get to know Ken better and see what he was doing throughout that.
I try to be versatile with not just that, but also, I mean, cycling too is one of my favorite things to do.
I was just gonna, to make him feel better, I was gonna say, well, I bet you've done way farther on a bike than he's ever done, but now I find out it's one of your favorite things. So.
Yeah, cycling is great. It's again a new drug where I'm having, well, and there's also a lot of ups and downs. You're having, the ups are, you know, of course, like the accomplishments and the things that you're able to do on the bike, but then the downs are, well, how much it costs to be on a bike.
Right.
But also I had like somewhat of a first injury. You know, I didn't know that you need to get fitted. Like it was that important. And so of course I do one of my longest rides, and I'm kind of recovering from that, from a lower back issue. But once I get that situated, I'd like to look at cycling too. It's
Cross country?
I mean, I don't know. It's just whatever thought comes to my mind. But
You heard it here. His next attempt is going to be bicycle across the country.
Race across America. That's a big thing. Yeah. I crewed for a qualifier not too long ago, so I got the.
Let me ask you a
itch.
question. How many people within the recovery community have said to you, you know, all you're doing is replacing one addiction for another?
I think it's first started off that way, but I also know the consistency that I have, and that's one thing that has ingrained in my head. When I first started off, I had a sponsor who showed up every Monday to me, business suit or, you know, whatever. He was a dad.
Yeah.
Worked at Frost or Wells Fargo, did stocks and bonds. I don't know what he did, but he looked important, and he didn't look like he should be coming to a homeless shelter to help me out, and he did. And he would share the word, shared his cigarettes, worked the steps with me every Monday. Never failed. And then he would, you know, work the steps with me, and then that was it. And the consistency helped me. It helped show that, like, somebody who is not getting paid to do this, who has no ulterior motive, just wants to see me get sober so I can do the same thing for somebody else.
Yeah.
And so it was, doing that and knowing, okay, like I'm heavy into running or cycling or whatever, right? I have my own little running, cycling family that I go off and frolic with in the weekends and early in the mornings and stuff like that. But at certain points, and everybody knows this, is at certain points I have this phone next to me of people reaching out, or, you know, of course, you know, sponsorship. And people will hear me in the middle of a coffee shop after our run, or they will hear me during our runs, and I have somebody calling me, and I'm saying, like, yeah, you know, like, and then I'm talking to them about steps.
Yeah.
And they're probably, an outsider's probably like, hey, you were just talking about fart jokes, and now you're talking about God now.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, God's in my life. I'm sorry, man.
Right.
And so, and I have to talk about it with somebody who may be struggling at the time with drugs and alcohol, right? And so, and they're like, that's weird, because you're literally just talking about fart jokes, like 5 minutes ago.
Right.
And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I'm still me, but I'm just me with a higher power, right?
Yeah.
And so, and that's the thing, you know, it's like, it never stops, right? The fact is that people can say all they want, like, hey, you're probably replacing one thing with another, but I mean, I've been sober this long, and I haven't been struggling.
Right.
And so you can say all you want, and your perception is maybe spot on to some element, but at the same time, you don't see me mad, jealous, judging.
Right.
Stealing.
You don't see me going about, like, you know, and the thing is, I also heavily believe that recovery has many faces on it. You know, you have some people that are gun-ho, service this, service that, and this, and they're miserable.
Yep.
And then you have some people who are just, they're okay with getting up in the morning, talking to God, and helping some people, and then going about their day. Because, you know what, at the end of the day, it's like, I'm just grateful that I don't have a needle in my arm, or I'm not spending my money on booze.
Yeah. I remember there was a guy in a meeting one time, and he was touting that he was 10 years sober and everything like that. But all the words that were coming out of his mouth, every sentence was like, it was like his mouth was filled with vinegar. Like, everything he was saying was bitter, unhappy, just, you know what I mean, negative and all that stuff. And I remember sitting there, and that was when I was, like, deep into my running, and I was like, man, like, you're 10 years sober. Is that what I'm supposed to be looking forward to? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, he could have just been having a bad day or anything like that, but I wanted to grab him and be like, bro, like, come for a fucking run with me. Like, tell me you're this bitter after a run. You know what I mean? When you've spent all this negative energy. And I remember the first time somebody presented me that question and was trying to tell me that, because like you said, I think what people not forget to realize, but what people don't realize sometimes is you do end up hopefully finding what works for you, right? And all I know, and I say it all the time, like all the energy I used to put into the hustle of getting dope every day and the hustle of getting money every day, I still had that energy when I got sober. And so thank God I stumbled into running. I never meant to. I was just trying to lose a little bit of weight. I had no idea how running would transform my life or the opportunities it would present or anything like that. But I remember them saying you're just replacing one addiction for another. And I remember looking at them and I was like, I hear what you're saying. Like, I understand what you're doing right now. And you could look at it that way. But if you're going to try to tell me that this thing that I've found in my life that has completely lit a fire up under my ass, has brought discipline and structure back into my life. It makes me go to bed early. It makes me eat healthy. And it's put me around the greatest group of fucking people I've ever been around. And it's like I'm traveling the country. I'm running races. I'm pushing myself farther than I thought a dope fiend could ever go. You know what I mean? It taught me more valuable life lessons than anything else ever. I was like, if you're going to try to tell me that's something bad, like, I don't know if we can really continue this conversation. Like, this shit is one of the things that absolutely saved my life. And
I think Leroy says it, who's in the documentary. It's more of a love than an addiction.
Yes. Right.
But knowing, and like Ken said too, it's a tool.
Right.
And there's many tools. It can't be running for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
But knowing when to use the tool to pick it up and to put it back down and respect it
But as many people in recovery, right? Like we can pinpoint everybody here has some sort of overuse of something, right? We got into recovery because we're addicts, right? We're addicted to something, and that we're wired to be hyper-focused on something to make sure we get it because it gives us pleasure, right? And so it's like the same thing can go for anybody, you know, that's in recovery, right? Whether it's me with running or you with judging, right? That judging gives you pleasure, so you continue doing it. You continue to project that onto what you may not get or what you think you get and understand. And I'm not, you know, going to go into a big philosophy about it, or I'm not a psychologist about it or anything like that, but the fact that running has only been a tool for me. There have been points where I've looked at it and been like, okay, I'm not having fun with running anymore, so I'm going to take a step back and just not do it right now. And that's the thing. Like my coach Ryan Miller, he always, one of the things that has stayed with me is don't do it if it's not fun.
Yeah.
Like, do not do it. Like, if it becomes a point where it's just like going to work, don't do it.
Yeah.
Just stop. And take a step back and do something else.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what happened to me. Like, the worst thing that ever happened to me was I started doing well at races, because then it put all this pressure on me every time, and now it's no longer something I just love to go do. Now I could go run 100K, and if I don't place or I don't win, I feel like I failed.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is retarded. Like, excuse me, I shouldn't use that word. It slipped.
It's ironic.
And we're all from the 90s.
Ironic.
It's
That's what I
ironic.
meant to say.
Yeah.
Ironic.
Yeah.
Right? We're all from. That's a good answer right there. We're from the 90s, dude.
It is ironic. I feel like that sometimes about possibly picking up a sponsorship or whatever. Something. It's like, no, it's just do it for fun.
Yeah.
I haven't signed up for races, and I think that goes common for a lot of us, except for Steve. Steve's been racing his ass off this summer, but
just so the audience knows, we've been trying for 2 months now to lock them down for the podcast, but every time we try to do, Steve has some crazy races going and doing another state.
Yeah.
Or supporting others.
That's what
My
you're
service
doing.
to others
That's
is
what you're
important
doing.
too. So it's not just me racing, but I do.
I literally think that's one of those questions. How did we all meet? I think that's the consensus of it. Is we wanted to help and be of service to others.
Right.
Especially being in the military, like you get that camaraderie, you get those pinpoints where you have that purpose.
Yeah.
Then you get out, and it's just a blank sheet.
Yeah, for sure. You saying that right now just made me realize something, and you know, wanting to be around all my people that I'm around now. They all use their experience to help others. You know what I mean? And for whatever reason, people that aren't like that, I don't want to be around
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because it just, imagine how different the world would be if everybody went around and used their experience of all their pain and everything like that and used it to help people instead of being so selfish all the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, all of us can sit here, I'm sure, and say how exponentially our lives have grown once we started doing that, getting outside of ourselves and helping people. My life has ascended to a point where I never thought was ever possible.
Yeah.
I wish people focused on it more.
Well, in the military, they're like, hey, get a mentor. You know, have a mentor. And it would scare me because I didn't want someone that was higher ranking than me
Did the
or
Air
in
Force
charge
tell
of
you that?
something. Yes.
The Army never told me
No,
that.
you guys didn't do mentorship?
You need
The
some-
Army
So
never told me
you'd
that
have this
shit.
mentorship program, right? But they'd want you to follow somebody that,
Yeah.
that could lead you in a way. And I was
And
like,
I've been seeing a lot of that.
right.
lately.
I never wanted someone to tell me how messed up I was or what I was doing
Yeah.
wrong, right? And how to write it. There's that fear, that's that inherent like ego of
Yeah.
like, this person's going to tell me where I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I don't want that, right? But now in our community, it's easier to just, I mean, I'm not getting paid for this, right? And I'm not working for anything specifically, you know, for a job. So it's easy to say, hey, Shawn, will you be my mentor and help me with this 100-mile run and tell me, because you've done it before, and help me get through it, right?
Yeah.
Ken, you know, I want to do Cap to Coast. You've done Cap to Coast. You know, it's a big, long endeavor. And so people are more apt to come to you and say, you know, I'd like your support.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So I'm sure, what was the total amount of time it took you to finish the run?
I think it was like 19 days. Yeah.
So 19 days. I'm sure you guys have endless amounts of stories, of your favorite stories. But if you would, maybe if each of you would tell maybe your favorite story, or maybe not your favorite story, but the worst story, like whatever comes to mind.
Worst story?
No, it could be your favorite, or it could be the worst one.
I'll say
Just-
my first. It pops up all
Go
the
ahead.
time. It was one of the board members.
Hold on. Let me set the stage. So you guys get a van together.
An RV, Class
Yeah,
C
we-
RV.
And this was all thankful to pay it forward, believing in Ken that he could
That he
do
could do it?
something, you know, that most people can't even fathom.
So
But
they got you the RV.
They got us the RV. They got us the provisions that we needed. And then through other connections, Ken had a pair of shoes here, a pair of shoes there. But one of the board members had to get on board with it because they fought between I don't know how many board members to say, yes, we're going to support this guy who made it through our program and is now changing people's lives. But that's something tangible that people can see.
I can't fathom that anybody in that boardroom wouldn't be like,
Well, there probably
Yeah,
was. There
yes.
probably was, but this board member felt compelled to help out in more ways than one. And
Right.
he let us stay at his childhood home.
In El Paso.
He hadn't been there in his childhood home since like 89 or something.
shit.
And we're there at Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm looking at paintings. I'm an old artist myself, and I'm asking him about paintings, and he tells us a story about his father and how he went through his own trials and tribulations of addiction. But there we were, somehow, years later, all in this one space to give hope back to
Right.
people, right?
Having Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, having Thanksgiving dinner away from our
Thanksgiving
It was
families.
dinner.
Thanksgiving dinner. I'm
Symbolic.
not kidding you. Yes.
Away from our families, and it snowed the next day, which he was supposed to take off after, but we formulated this plan to stay near home base, which was his family's home. And on the third day, which he was supposed to be gone 2 days before, we're stopping, normal random stop on the side of the road after leaving Ken 5 miles back. You know, we would stop every 3 to 5 miles wherever it was safe.
so you guys are driving ahead in the van
Yeah.
while he's running.
And he'd do his dance, and we'd replenish as he got up to us, and so on and so on. And we somehow pulled up to this ranchito, like this abandoned 5-building ranch. And somehow, again, the board member was there years ago at his sister's quinceañera.
Yeah.
That
Wow.
his dad was family member or friends with the owner of the ranch. This wasn't planned.
Right.
And he was touched. He
Yeah.
was like looking at me like, where did you bring me? Why did you bring me here? Like, I haven't been here since my sister's sweet 16. And he called his sister, who he hadn't talked to in a couple years, and it was because of this guy.
Right.
Right? But none of that stuff would have been formulated or had happened, and if he didn't feel compelled to help others, right? To give other people hope. And at that point, we didn't know. He was just going up this crazy idea. I want to run and raise money. I don't know how much money I'm going to raise, and we believed in him, and we felt compelled to help, and that was one of my favorite stories.
That's beautiful. So
That was day 3 or 4. I mean, it wasn't even that far into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
where did it start? Where did it end?
I started in El Paso at the zoo,
Uh-huh.
Which was like a mile and a half from the border.
Yeah.
And then it finished in Logansport, Louisiana.
And did you, I mean, obviously having this guy on your squad, that like you were prepared in the way of like, all right, this is how many days, this is how much distance I think I can cover in a day. It should take about this long. Like you have it all planned out, or are you just kind of shooting off the hip?
Yeah, so this is how I made a map. I pulled up Strava and I went like this, and that's how we made a map.
Really?
Yeah, we bought a map from REI and kind of did our last minute, like this would work and this would work. I even did a little bit of rendezvous, going to West Texas at the time and kind of taking some pictures and stuff like that. I was a little worried because initially we were supposed to go through some oil field or oil
Back
area,
roads.
yeah, and it was saying
yeah.
do not enter, will be shot if it's not. But it was like it was very like disclosed from the public, and so
I think it says something about noxious gas or something like
yeah,
that.
there we
That's
go.
what it was.
And so we were like, well, how bad is the gas, you know? And really, honestly, and so we were able to kind of maneuver through there, and I feel like
So you ran through where the gas is?
no,
we
ran around.
ended up doing a
we
detour.
did another like 30
It
miles.
It was probably like
Nice.
an extra 25-mile detour. We had
Yeah.
to go up north through not Fort Davis,
Guadalupe
Mountain.
mountain area.
So originally it was supposed to be 50 miles a day, but of course you have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, and so when we started off, it started snowing in El Paso. It was blizzard or whatever, not blizzard, but it was like an ice storm. So freak ice storm, like it was beautiful on Thanksgiving. Friday, Black Friday, instantly like ice storm came out of nowhere, and that's what we were seeing the night before. It was like, oh man, this and that, and it was only supposed to be like maybe like 20 miles that I was supposed to do, or like a marathon or something like that. Like we would just make it right outside of El Paso, and that was it. And so it just going through that, and then I couldn't feel my whole body. By the end, it was just pouring ice and rain, and in the video you just see little snow flurries, but what you really don't see is like how it was just wet and like it was just flooded it was cold, and everybody was like, I'll go out there with you, and they'd make it like maybe about 3-4 miles, and they'd be like, all right, bud, you got this. I was like, this is my run. I don't want anybody to have to go through it.
Yeah.
And so Rachel, bless her heart, she would be the one out there the most, toughing it out with me. And so she was out there with me a majority of the time. But I would see that she was even freezing too, and she's a little tough one. I was like, nah, just go in the truck. Like, I don't need to, and that was one thing, is I didn't want to worry about anybody.
Yeah.
I don't want to worry. When you're doing something like this, you want to know that they're able to take care of their own, because at that time I already knew that when somebody's with me, I'm not focused on me. I'm focused on them now.
Yeah.
Like I'm worried, are you going to be able to be okay through this? And so I didn't want to. I can't focus the best when I'm worried about somebody else. So it was just better off that people would go and just support me as we go. So. When we finally got out of El Paso, and it was like it was beautiful. I think it was like the rain stopped. It just is clear. It was cool. The snow you can see for miles on end. It was as if like you only had to do it for the first 4 hours. It was like terrible, and then after that, once we got into, I think it was like what was it, like 2 or 3 o'clock. We already raised like how much money? Like I think
about 2.
Yeah, it was. Somebody said, "Oh, I think Hamilton was like, you just raised $10,000 or something like that," and I'm like in a daze and confused because I was like just super cold as it is. And so, just the fact that $10,000 just came out of nowhere, led me to believe that I should probably go farther than the marathon. Right? Let's push it to however far we got. And I think we almost got like 40-ish miles.
It was like 38.
Yeah. And so I at that time I was like, as long as we can get 40 to 45 a day, we're fine. It may take us an extra day or two, but I mean, and I used all my PTO for this. So I said, I got a couple more extra days of PTO, so it's okay. And so that was the initial like goal, was like 40 to 45 miles. And give or take, there were some days where the body would just not be able to take it, but I think I've learned from this, and
No rest days?
No rest days.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no. It was the rest days were you get done with the run. Well, actually, it was like 3 ice baths a day. It was, or 2 to 3 ice baths a day, give or take, and then you get done, and it was like a chore for myself. You have to eat. That was important. You have to. I didn't want to eat, but I had to. You had to get in the ice bath. I didn't want to. I had to. Put the boots on, the Neurosports pads on that I would use. Neurosports is one of my sponsors, and so you put it on, and it
like a TINS unit.
Stimulates your muscles, and that and not so much as a TINS unit, but I won't go into full description because I don't have Travis here with me, but he can describe more about it. But it did help me function the next day. Going to sleep at a proper time was a chore. Just making sure that I had some downtime mentally was a chore, right? Nothing stimulant, nothing crazy. I had to limit myself on the phone a little bit. I couldn't be on the phone much. Like, I would be able to post an update, and then that was really about it. I'd get all these messages and responses, but I would put it away because the more I was on that phone, the more wired I would get, right? And so I had to destimulate myself during that time. It was a lot of like recovery between the time that I would complete my run to the time I would start up again. Right. And it was that time that would keep me rolling for the next one. And that's what I told myself. Whatever you don't do tonight, you're going to pay for it tomorrow.
Yep.
And so I had to remember that, and it became a point of like function that kept the operation going for this, which is roll, stretch, strengthen, recovery, whatever it took, right? Ask them to massage something out real quick. Shower. Don't just not do nothing. Right. Right. Yep. You had to continue doing something, and then so the next day I can get up at 5, 6 in the morning, and we do it all over again.
Right.
And of course, like, the body is going to take a toll, right? And those first hour or two is just going to be me hobbling, but then after a while my body would get back into the rotation, which made things scary because it was like after the second week, it became normal to run 45 miles, right? Like, you were just like, I got 45 miles. So, and that was it. I mean, I was like, it's kind of scary to just wake up and know, like, I'm just going to go run 45 miles again. Yeah. The first hour or two, of course, like, I'm hobbling, but then after that, I can get the body going. And
right. That's what I try to tell that to people when they hear non-runners and all that. And I try to tell them, like, I don't know about you guys, but every run I ever did, the first 1 or 2 miles suck every time. It's like my body's like, what the fuck are we doing? Stop this. And then your body gets going like that, and then you break through those walls and everything.
That's what we get for starting running at the age of 30.
Yeah. You're right.
But meanwhile, through all that, he's still, like, Ken would post something on Instagram, and we're still raising money, right? So we're still trying to highlight the Pay It Forward organization, who has done so good to care for us in this whole thing, that Roel and I are, sending updates, and they would send people out to meet up with us and people from the organization, and they were doing updates, and Ken still did his own updates. Like, he managed all that on his own. His Strava, his Instagram was his, and well, it took time. He still had to do that part. He still had to do a news interview one day.
Oh yeah, I'm just not good at like side quests.
Right. There were additional requirements.
Yeah. I remember one time
you were focused on the mission.
Yeah. When we went to Waco, Waco tried to do an interview with us. The newscaster tried to pull, and you see me running away from newscaster because
we told him to be there an hour before this was happening, and we waited, and he's getting cold now from having just run 20 miles, right? News reporter don't know this.
Right.
And they finally get there for whatever reason, and
And that was
Wayne
after,
having
yeah,
it.
that was after a day. That was one of my worst days. Was the day that the day before we got to Waco, or not the day, but like the miles set before Waco. I was not able to get over this hip problem.
Right.
And I remember my buddies from Bear Run Crew showed up, and my coach showed up, and they all showed up, and I'm just like, they thought that they were gonna come with me and they were gonna run, and then I was like, not today. We're walking today, and it was, my hip was super tight. I couldn't get over it. Usually I was able to like put the straps on, get it loosened, get some ice on it, and then we're good. Not that day. It felt like my hip was ready to burst out in the front. And they showed up, and they're all in their running gear and stuff like that. I'm like, hate to disappoint you.
Right.
We just got done with the hill country. Now we're going into Waco, and so I think that was probably one of the things. Like, hill country will just tear you apart. It's just literally nothing but hills. But of course, when we got to Waco, the newscaster showed up, and I was already I was barely getting over that hip issue, and so I didn't want to stop. And I remember I was just like, I can't stop, and that's just what it came down to. It's just being hyper focused on getting done with this, right? Whatever it took. And it wasn't me trying to be rude. It wasn't me trying to not care about people showing up and showing support. It was just simply like, people want, and I want to see this get done, right? And how this gets done is, I have to put everything I got into every run that I put every day. And so that's what it came down to. It wasn't the glitz, the glamour, the cameras, any of that stuff. It wasn't, the documentary. It wasn't about any of that stuff. It was simply like, how am I going to get to this and adapt on what is thrown at me today? And so when we got through Waco, it was like, that was great. I love the fact that we were, I don't know how much closer to the finish at that point, but it was as if things got a little bit more easier. We got more adjusted as a crew on how to function as well, and how to communicate, and how to just operate. Because when you're doing something like this with this amount of time, there are gaps of communication at times. But I feel like we all worked through it. We all were able to kind of understand each other's differences, and then really realize like the important part is like the mission, right? And the mission was like that we get all together, we get across Texas. Had Steve said, I quit, had Roel said, I quit, I'm done, I think that would have probably, the chances of me wanting to go across Texas would have been like very, very, very slim, right? So the fact that they both came along with me and stuck it out, it wasn't just the fact that like it was for me, but they're sticking it out away from their families, away from their life, away from all this, sacrificing that time. So
you're gonna make damn sure that they're not doing it for nothing, right?
In vain, yes. Yeah.
I wanted to quit too at one point.
Did you?
I'm not just quit, but I just want.
You were over it.
Yeah.
I wanted. There was a point where I wanted to go home too.
Really?
Oh yeah. I talk about it in an interview that we just did the other day. So,
You talking about the newscaster? I remember I was probably 70 or so miles into my 100, and we just had the director and the editor of my film on here a couple weeks ago, and so we were telling the story, and dude, I'm 70 miles into a 100-mile race. It's the farthest I've ever ran before, and I came into an aid station. He's like, Shawn, do me a favor, go back up over that hill, and I want you to come back up over like that, and I was like, no. No, fuck no. Absolutely not, bro. Like, I need to go right now. And he's like, well, no, we need to get a shot. And then they wanted to use a drone. And the Appalachian Trail, there's trees everywhere. And so they were having a tough time getting a good shot with the drone. And he's like, here, just stay here for a little bit and let us keep. No, man. Like, I have to go finish this shit. I'm not doing this right now.
Yeah.
I don't got time for all this, which I wasn't trying to be mean or anything.
Right.
I'm just in that mindset. Like, bro, I gotta go. I don't know if I'm even gonna finish this.
Yeah. Similarly, on the very last day, Ken was in the RV, and everybody was out. I mean, everybody had come to see the finish, but we were 10 miles from the finish or something. And he's in the RV, and like, Ken already admitted that he doesn't finish well, and like we want him to finish, but like, is he going to go out or is he not? And everybody's standing outside the RV just waiting, just looking, waiting for him. And finally I'm like, Ken, I knock and I go in and I'm like, if he hates me for this, well then, oh well, I was here for the majority of it, right? But I'm gonna make my attempt, Ken. We gotta go. Come on, it's time to finish this up.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, I think when somebody tells me you have like 5 miles left and it's really 10 miles, that's
cruel. That's fucking cruel, right now.
I think I don't know what the GPS was saying or whatever, but you know, honestly, I think one of the moments of this run, I can tell you which was probably maybe the best. I would say is probably when we got into East Texas and just knowing that, like, it got to a point where all the disagreements, every fight that, well, I don't think there was really many fights, but everything that we had to go through, and it became a point of, like, time just kind of, like, didn't matter anymore. It came to a point of, like, effort after that. Like, how much effort are we going to throw into this? And that was the last of what I had right there, was that last stretch, because if I kept thinking about how much time it took, well then, like, at the end, like, minutes feel like hours, right? Because, like, you get to that point and it's like, God, when is this thing going to be done already? And so I stopped thinking like that, and more or less, like, the effort that we all had to put in. I had my roommate Kenny driving all the way to East Texas to bring me eight gels. And I had Rachel. She's in Austin, and she drove to East Texas in the middle of, you know, her basketball championships, and of course, like, she's a coach and a school teacher. I had, you know, of course, people who, you know, I had my other buddy Kenny, who was going through health issues, driving out there, and he wasn't sure exactly if, you know, he had, you know, cancer or not, and he still showed up in support. I had, and he's doing well now. He's cancer free now, and I just had a lot of people with their lives and busy with their lives showing up at the end of this, and, like, you know, really showing the effort of, like, trying. I had people who didn't run the amount that they run, they should have run, and they're out there sticking it out with me. I had somebody who ran their fastest 50K, our buddy Eduardo. He never ran a 50K that fast. He came with me. He's like, this is the fastest 50K I've ever ran.
No shit.
When I went, I tried to do low 8s, high 7s pace, because, like, I just wanted to get it done with, right? But I remember he was like, this is the fastest 50K I've ever done. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. Awesome. I'm happy to help you. I still have another 20 more miles to go, but that's all right.
Dude, I don't think if people don't run or run races, have you been lost in a race before?
Oh, yeah.
People don't understand, like, you put your mind on, like, that mileage right there, like, okay, I'm running 50 miles or whatever, and if you get lost for 2-3 miles, people hear, oh, it's only 2 or 3 miles, but when you've wrapped your head around 50 miles, my mind is running 50 miles. If you had 3 more in there in the middle of it, it's like, oh no.
And we've had that experience before when he went from Austin to Corpus.
Really?
It was like 223 miles, and he's already at 224, and we still got, or he's already at 221, and we still got 5 more miles to go. He literally, like, he shut down.
Yeah, I would too.
And
like,
it took a while.
Fuck you, fuck everybody right now.
But to be honest, though, when we were talking about races, and I something about races, to me, it just doesn't get off to my heart anymore. About I've signed up for a couple races for stuff for down the road, but and that's the only reason why I do races. I don't do races to be as competitive, even though it's like I enjoy the results. I simply do it more or less like as the sheer fun of it now.
Right.
And so I have a marathon next week over at Marine Corps that I have been training for my own personal effort, but it's obviously I'm not going to be like trying to race anybody except for Todd.
Except for Todd.
But honestly, I just don't get off the races anymore.
Right.
Like I'm not going out of my way to sign up for every which race that gets thrown at me. I have an effort of I don't even know, but to put myself in a race and say, you know what, you're gonna get up early in the morning. You got to be ready at this time. You got to beat these amount of people, and some people love that. A lot of people love that kind of thing. You know, they love that challenge, right? I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
I signed myself up we have this thing called the Power Lines. I did 100 miles out there, and guess what? I took like 4 naps in my car to complete it. It was 6 miles out and back, until I got 100 miles in. Like 23,000 feet of elevation that you climb and doing that, or 21, I don't know, something like that. And I got to sleep in my car, and there wasn't anybody telling me, oh, you got to be done at this time, or you cut off, or anything like that, or you got to start. I don't even know. And it was like that stress was gone.
Yeah.
Of it, and so and I'll probably end up signing up for more races as we go. But like, you know, like I don't do anything for sponsorship or anything like that. Like I want to just do what I do because, you know, this is all I can give back to the world. Mm-hmm. This is I'm studying to be a social worker, but like as far as like what my body can do right now at this time, I'm blessed enough to use it to possibly raise funds to give back to the world. And that's I mean, and that magnitude.
Way bigger than winning any race or giving a shit what you do at a race.
Yeah.
I get it completely.
Yeah, I think we raised, it was over 50,000 that he raised throughout the 19 days.
Right.
And I'm not sure how many people's lives that'll change, but it was a bigger effect than what I personally imagined, because I used to work there at Haven for Hope. I kind of understand the structure. But to know that much is going back to other people, it's
I feel like
you not be happy about that?
It's wild.
And I feel like the efforts of something like this hopefully will give other people ideas on how to raise money. Like they see me and they're probably like, oh, this tattooed, weird, big haired, like dude who just posts memes all the time, and have no idea that like I'm working with other nonprofits to see what's the next big project and there is another big project going on, but what the next big project is to make an impact. And it's not because of just me, but it's the efforts of a whole team of people who share the same idealistic approach on how to change the world. Because like honestly, like I don't know, signing up for races ain't going to change the world. It's going to change my world maybe, but it's not going to really change the world as a whole. And I think the world right now at this point is suffering, right? In some point, in some level. And so it's like these efforts that we do collaboratively, we do collectively, will hopefully, you know, work towards a better world. And if it doesn't, I mean, I'm okay with what little changes we're doing today, right? I'm okay with that because I feel like it's a ripple effect, right? And we do this, and then it's like somebody else. I did this running across Texas, raising money also for Child Safe because somebody else did it, right? Somebody else did it before me, and I was like, I can do that.
Right.
And so it's like, and somebody else is going to see this. There's already 2 people, I think, 1 or 2 people who have asked me 3 people have asked me to, right after this, they want to ask us questions about how to run across Texas.
Yeah.
I don't know what their effort is on raising money or not. I don't know if they just want notoriety about it. And it's not none of my business, but I hope that if you're going to run across Texas, you're going to try to do it for a bigger cause. Yeah. And regardless if you're successful or not, the attempt of doing it is already a success as it is, right? So it's like win, lose, or fail. You tried something at that magnitude, and you know, it's like I hope, you know, it does change the world on some level because it'll save another life, right? Don't feel like me signing up for a 100-miler is going to save somebody's life.
Yep. Yeah. For sure.
Eh.
Did I cut you off?
No.
All right. So I was curious, can you tell me, Steve, throughout that 19-day experience, what do you think was the most valuable lesson you learned?
Just to be able to adapt. You know, we went into this, Roel and I sat down with that map that we talked about and plotted out where we were going to park the RV each night and tried to have where we were going to stay, and got thrown a complete monkey wrench with the snow out of El Paso and the what turned into a 40-mile day or 38-mile day from a 50-mile day, right? And so now we're back from where we started this far on day one, which means on day two we're this far back unless he goes out and runs 70 miles, right?
Yeah.
Which wasn't going to happen on day two. So the adaptability for me was huge. You know,
Right.
just being able to just change on the fly.
Yeah.
For someone like me who grew up military, right, total structure in my
Yeah.
life all the time,
Right.
that was a big takeaway.
That's good. There's a lot of people that
And Roel's a big reason for that. You know, his adaptability and the way that he can just switch gears really quick, right? And I'll stay focused on something like really minute too. It's something stupid,
Right.
and I'm just like, but this wasn't done yet,
Yeah.
right? We can't move on to this because this wasn't done yet. And Roel's like, Steve, come on, yeah, that's to credit of Roel for sure.
right. Good yin and yang with y'all.
We were yin and yang for sure, yeah.
But their presence there like was always something that I looked forward to. Like they have something of sheer support and love and care.
Yeah.
Because they have both come from. They're not like just crew members. They're athletes themselves.
Yeah. Right.
They have done some pretty gnarly stuff, which like Roel has his history with Big Ben on many accounts, and still attempting to do run his self-supported Big Ben for 100 miles. Of course, Steve has many accomplishments as well. I think with the cycling, you just got done with what century?
What do you mean? What
Over the summer?
Or I did 200 miles over the
200
summer
miles,
on the road bike. It wasn't a race. It was just riding with some friends.
But I mean, like doing
Yeah.
stuff like that, you're not bringing like people who really they know how support should be,
Yeah.
right? And how it's round the clock. It's not just like, hey, are you okay? It's like going above and beyond, and that's the important thing.
Right. That's another one of the things I love about just the trail running community in general. I forget what I'm sure you guys have seen it, but I don't know if it was when it was the documentary. I want to say it was Speedgoat he was going out to set the Appalachian Trail record, and the guy who held it previous was there crewing him to help him break it.
Yeah.
And then he did that for the next guy and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like
that happened 3 times. Yeah.
Right, like that's what that shit's all about. You know what I mean? And you guys embody that, and then that was my favorite part of the community that we've all gotten in touch with. And dude, I never knew. I was literally just trying to lose a couple pounds, and I got introduced to the greatest, most supportive people that I've ever met in my entire life, and they're all strangers. Half of them I couldn't even tell you their name, but you meet them, you run a race with them,
Yeah.
you spend 30 miles with them on a race, and like you're bonded with them for life. You know what I mean? What was the most important lesson you learned?
Oh man.
Or a lesson?
I want to say just it doesn't have to be done on my terms.
Mm-hmm.
There's other people, and their idea might be better.
Yeah.
I think it just has to go back with the adaptability.
Right.
Yeah. Like we had our plans, and me not wanting to follow a structured plan, I think that's boring, but that helped at the same time with our adaptability.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing I could take away from that.
Good shit. And you?
I think the power of like support was definitely something like that you have to have that. I mean, to the sense of like after this was done, I looked at the efforts of me and I was like, okay, that's cool. But I really like appreciated the efforts of these guys and how it wouldn't have been done. It couldn't have been done without these guys. And
Right.
it's the reason why I'm not on this podcast alone.
Yeah.
It's the reason why whatever is relevant to any of this run, it's us all together. It's because these guys were there around the clock, sacrificing whatever they had to sacrifice in order to get this run done. And after this run, I remember being committed to helping out with other races. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to give back to more races, the running community, to the recovery community. I wanted to continue to give because like I felt like as if I was taking so much to get this.
Right.
And so I was like, I owe the world now to give back because I'm so grateful that this was done. I'm so grateful for these guys, and they won't let me serve them, so I might as well serve other people.
Right.
But, you know, and to this day, it's like, it's all about, to me, in order to keep the integrity of what running is, or the sport of what long distance ultra running is, and I think that's why it's so highly encouraged, right, is to volunteer, serve, you know, help out with the trails, you know, picking up trash, doing things outside of yourself, doing things outside of the podium, doing things that are outside of like the registration, or you know, talking or setting a post on like, well, this is me, week 6, day 18, training of, you know, so and so. It's like, that's cool, but what have you done to give back to this this sport that has given you so much? And so and that's the thing for me. It's about, like, you know, really giving back and trying to make sure that you show your presence when other people really need it. Right? And a lot of people do need it. I still have people reach out about, what do I do on my 5K? What do I do on a 10K? I'm just barely getting back into running, and this hurts. And I won't tell them anything about PT because I'm not good at that. But, like, if it's about, like, you know, the effort of running and stuff like that, just showing support and just being able, don't be you know, rude and like ignore it, right? Or leave them on read. At least let them know, give them a little something of how you did it, right? A little encouragement, you know, goes a long way. So,
dude, hearing your answer like there, it's good. You gotta change out the battery?
Yeah.
What time do we have to
And
leave?
then we'll have to go ahead and find the wrap up here in just a second.
okay.
11:30.
I'm on call. That's why I have on the phone. I just had like
He's always always got work. Like,
I have all, So I'm just like, I'll call you back. They call in a lot for my work. It's a 24/7 operation.
Oh, okay.
So it's like,
yeah.
and it's Friday and it's payday. So it's like,
I asked him earlier, do you know who Jesse James Leha is?
Jesse James.
Sounds familiar.
He's a WBC boxer, yeah. WBC super featherweight champ, I think.
What time's he showing up?
We're going to his gym.
Oh,
the
you are?
next
Okay,
podcast.
okay.
We're going to be there at 1.
Okay.
I'm not rushing you.
You're good.
We're rolling again.
We could go for, I feel like we could go for another 2 hours and still never.
Probably
still
could. We're
never
hitting Joe Rogan territory then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, he's got to retire sometime. When he doesn't wait.
Sean's got to take it over. Hey, Joe.
Go?
Yeah, good.
It's refreshing to hear what your answer was there. One thing.
I know. Can I take mine back? I want to go back with that answer.
Yeah. One thing that this podcast has taught me, and I've been saying it a lot lately, is it's not about your story, it's about what you do with it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you're talking, there's a lot of people that could come on a podcast and just talk about, oh, me, and I did this. You haven't done that one time, and your main goal has always been, like, how do I help people? How do I use this to help people? And, dude, I never knew a world existed where, like, this I was just doing me, like you said. I was just running. I was just doing me, running, trying to help people where I could, trying to help people in the recovery community or people running. I didn't know the effect that would have. You know what I mean? That what that would do for people, or the people that would start hitting me up on social media from literally all around the world. It's like, man, all I did was get my shit together and start running, and good stuff has just started to happen. And it's always kept me doing that. It's like, all right, you know, everybody's got a story. What are you doing with it? Are you using it to help people? Because that story doesn't mean shit if you're not helping people with it. And so that's amazing. This is the big question I wanted to get to. It's one of the last questions. What was it like as you're coming down the home stretch, coming in that last mile, and know that you've just completed this? Like, I know coming in, I only did 100. You did way over that, but I remember my last 10 miles was this straightaway on the road once I come off the Appalachian Trail, and that was when it hit me. It was like, oh shit, like, I'm about to do this. Like, I'm not gonna stop. So, like, what emotionally, like, what are you thinking about? What are you going through as you're coming in for that last little bit, and then crossing that line? Not line, but getting to you guys at the end, right?
It was a state line.
I think
yeah.
no.
Oh, was it?
It was
the
the
state
state
line?
line.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
Yeah.
I had
But-
them come along with me too.
Real quick, I remember when I got stationed in Texas,
Yeah.
and I was driving down from Ohio, and I hit Texarkana. I was like, "Oh, I'm here! I made it!"
6 hours in.
And then, bro, it's like forever still, and I'm like, "How?" Like, I know Texas is big, but
Yeah.
Jesus! So
Right.
even just that drive right there,
Yeah.
running across,
A little bit of context for the
holy.
the greatness
Yeah.
of the state of Texas.
Yeah,
Yes.
if you haven't driven through driving through Florida is crazy too, but driving through Texas is just like it's never ending. It's a
Yeah.
whole day's. It feels like it's a whole day's worth of driving. So I can't imagine running it.
I think going through there, it felt like as if I don't know how to put it. Like sometimes I do need that proof of that like there's something bigger than myself at times, and I feel like when you're crossing through that with your crew and everybody's safe and sound, and the awareness has now amplified, right? The message is now out there of what this idea was, and how there was no injuries, there was no any of that shit. It was nothing but a miracle. That's it. And I just needed that miracle to kind of show itself right there and then.
Yeah.
And because you're not done until you're done, right? And so when I finally saw, like they said, like you see the crowd, you see everybody waiting for you, and you cross the bridge, that miracle, that the idea of running across Texas after some people have had failed attempts of that, who were a lot more experienced than you were of a runner, and then doing that, and this just, that was me seeing a miracle. You know, it was nothing but short of a miracle, because we definitely didn't know what we were doing, and I feel like we were just a learning in progress, and just and though some people may have thought like, oh man, these guys know what they're doing, they know how to take care of themselves, we then crossed that together with some very well-known knowledge and experience of what to do next. But at that time, I think like it was just three guys that, like, it was like a David and Goliath thing. Like, how did I make that alive? How did I whoop his ass? You know, honestly, I didn't doubt it. I didn't doubt these guys. I didn't doubt myself. But I was really interested on how it was all going to pan out. I knew it wasn't going to be pretty.
Right.
But I guess like that's just my MO. I know that things. My first 50K and my first race was not pretty. Anybody that does their first ultra is, you know, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to hurt a lot. So
Valuable lesson.
Yeah.
so so doing this, I knew it wasn't gonna be pretty. I knew it was gonna hurt a lot, and I knew that it was gonna get done. That's all I knew. I knew one way or another it was gonna get done, and there wasn't a day where I was like, I'm gonna quit. There wasn't a day that I was gonna say, you know what, like we're done. If I got stung in the mouth by a bee the day before, I think the second.
It was the second to last day.
And I was drinking a soda and I got stung in the mouth. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this, but we're
Right.
And, you know, and it's weird, like that voice in my head saying you're going to get done with this followed me all along the whole time, and just seeing it through. It was the same feeling that I had when I finished a part of my college, was like, you're going to get through with this and it's going to get done. It's not going to look pretty, but you're going to get done. And so, again, like that voice still says in my head for the next big thing, it's going to get done.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, and the message is going to get across. And of course, it's going to bring on more notoriety on how we can better serve people who are suffering in this world. And so, yeah.
Dude. What?
Go ahead. No, I was going to touch on two things.
5 more minutes?
Yeah, well,
I guess we're wrapping up.
It's going to stop?
no, we could.
I wanted to touch on two things that we may have glossed over through the whole thing. Is the fact that Ken started on his mother's birthday to honor his mother. That was a big thing. And that he celebrated 7 years of sobriety throughout the run. Like, it was day 8 or something like that.
December 4th.
Yeah, so that was maybe day 6. Yeah. But yes, that he celebrated 7 years of sobriety during the run.
Damn.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I was keeping up with you while you guys were going.
Yeah, we'd send some texts.
I was messaging.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, number 1, thank you for what you did. Number 2, bro, you're a huge inspiration. I hope you know that, man. Anybody that comes in contact with your story, you know what I mean? You've been blessed with the documentary getting ready to come out, Road to Recovery, right? By the time this episode comes out, it'll be out. So please, everybody, go check it out. Do you guys have, I don't know if you guys want people to hit you up or want people to start following you or anything like that?
Yeah, if anybody wants to buy tacos from me, I'm not your average Roel on Instagram.
Buy tacos.
Yeah.
That was a free shout out, right?
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
Mine, fws.motivation on Instagram. That's me.
Yeah.
Mr. Fairweather Steve himself,
That's
legend.
what the FWS stands for, yes.
Mine is running out of money. Literally, that's what it says,
Right.
running out of money. So, yeah, you'll probably see some memes, and that's really about it.
And I would be remiss if we didn't mention that one friend that we all have in common. Everybody knows who I'm talking about?
God?
And we could definitely shout out God. But Genevieve, we love you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows you. She's the one that put you on my radar, dude.
Oh, awesome.
And I didn't realize she was connected with you. I knew what you had done. I knew you had known Steve, but
cool.
I didn't realize that we had this friend.
Well, thanks,
this
Genevieve.
friend.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, dude, she's a very, very, very special person
Cool.
to me. She's like a little
Awesome.
sister.
Okay.
But dude, last thing we usually do to wrap up the podcast is called the I Am Redemption podcast.
Oh.
And when I say I'm redemption, I'm not talking about myself, but what I'm trying to do is to get people to understand everybody's recovering from something. Everybody's been through shit, and if you've been lucky enough to make it on the other side, you're out there, you're using your experience to help others and stuff like that, like you are redemption. Mm-hmm. And so in an effort to help the people get to know who you are a little bit better, if you'd take a look into your camera.
Okay.
And let them know who you are.
I don't take myself seriously. I am seriously just trying to be of help to anybody. I'm of service if you need it. I try my best to stay out of myself, but I fall short of that. I'm imperfect, but at the same time, I strive for perfection. And I'm just me.
Perfect.
Okay.
Fellas, I can't thank you enough.
Yes.
It was an absolute
Thank you.
honor. I will be following closely with whatever the next big thing is.
It's probably tacos.
Yeah.
Clearly.
What's the tacos thing?
I'm just hungry.
Oh, I'm starving, man.
I heard that, yeah.
Yeah, you heard my stomach earlier? I have a protein bar over there. I was like, I wonder if they'll hear if the camera's facing. But, all right, fellas, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shawn.
Woo.